some movies, they just kind of hit you with noise and action right away.
Oh, absolutely. Blockbusters often do.
Well, think about the complete opposite, like a film that starts with what feels like ages of just quiet.
You mean Wall-E?
Exactly, Wall-E. Pixar's 2008 film, it always struck me as this real shift in animation, like a quiet revolution almost, because it dared to be so visual first.
It really was something special. And, what's interesting about all Andrew Stanton directed it is how it's so much more than just a kid's movie.
Right.
It tackles these really quite substantial themes, about humanity, our impact. And it does it with this amazing trust in the audience, trusting us to get it just from the images, the interactions.
Totally. And that's really what we want to dig into today. We're doing a deep dive into how Wall-E manages to use that visual storytelling and the thematic resonance to say some pretty profound things.
Yeah, looking at the technical side, the narrative choices, and that surprisingly sharp social commentary.
Okay, so let's start with that opening. Earth. What hits you first is just the visuals of decay.
Oh, definitely. Those mountains of trash, the hazy atmosphere. You immediately feel this sense of emptiness, like where are the people? It sets such a specific, maybe melancholic tone.
And then there's Wall-E, this little lonely robot just doing his job, compacting trash day in, day out.
Like a little robotic Sisyphus, yeah, in this completely silent world.
And that silence, that long stretch at the beginning, it really makes you watch, doesn't it? You have to pay attention to the details, his little routines.
It does. In those first, 30 minutes? With almost no dialogue, the film tells you so much. You're hanging on every visual cue, the dust motes in the air, the sounds Wall-E makes, the whole story of this trashed planet. It's just, it's showing, not telling. Perfected.
And Wall-E himself, he's just so expressive without saying, hardly anything.
Those eyes.
Yes, the big binocular eyes. Apparently inspired by Buster Keaton, which makes total sense.
You can see so much in them. Curiosity, loneliness, that little spark of hope, maybe.
It's incredible. And it's not just the eyes, is it? It's the animation, the tiny movements.
Absolutely. The way he tilts his head or how carefully he handles things he finds, that builds his personality. And even his sounds, the beeps and whirs.
Ben Burtt's sound design, amazing.
Yeah, they carry real emotional weight. It shows how much sound design can do for character, even nonverbal character.
So that initial silence, it's not just style, it's setting up the whole message, right? About what we did to the planet.
Precisely. You see the consequences immediately. Earth feels, dehumanized, maybe?
Yeah.
It's a stark picture of environmental fallout.
And against that, Wall-E's almost human qualities stand out even more. His curiosity, his little routines.
His anthropomorphic traits, yeah.
Yeah.
They really shine in that barren landscape. He feels more alive than the setting.
And his treasures. The little things he collects.
Oh, yeah. The Rubik's Cube, the spork.
The light bulb. And that hello, Dolly. It tells you so much about him, this, longing for connection, wanting to understand what life used to be like.
It's incredibly effective.
Yeah.
And touching, really.
Then, bam, Eve shows up. Extraterrestrial vegetation evaluator.
And talk about contrast. Her design is so sleek, so modern. You can definitely see that sort of Apple design influence people talk about.
Oh, totally. She's the opposite of Wall-E's clunky, functional look.
He's industrial, she's
Yeah.
advanced tech. That visual difference tells a story right away about where they come from, their purpose.
But somehow, despite being opposites,
They develop this chemistry.
yeah, this really sweet, almost childlike connection. It's in the little ways they look at each other, the tentative interactions.
And just saying each other's names. Wall-E, Eve.
Right?
That repetition becomes so meaningful. It's how they build their bond using those basic sounds. Ben Burtt's work again, giving those simple words weight.
So much weight. And then the story shifts. Eve finds the plant. Wall-E follows her.
Out of devotion, yeah.
Yeah. All the way to the Axiom, this giant spaceship where the humans are.
And this is where the film changes gear a bit, doesn't it? It moves from that quiet, almost poetic opening.
Do something much more satirical.
Exactly. Life on the Axiom is, it's a commentary. A pretty pointed one.
It's eye-opening. The humans are all sort of floating around in chairs.
Obese, yeah. Glued to screens,
Yeah.
relying on machines for everything.
They've basically given up all autonomy, haven't they?
It seems like it. And the film uses this, maybe exaggerated picture to poke at some real worries,
Like consumerism, technology.
Yeah, consumerism, environmental neglect, becoming so dependent on tech that we lose touch with, reality and each other.
It's definitely warning, but what I like is that it doesn't feel hopeless.
No, there's optimism there. A belief that people can still change, snap out of it.
And the captain is the key to that, isn't he?
He really is. When he discovers Earth's past, thanks to Eve's plant and Wall-E, it wakes something up in him.
That desire to go back, to reconnect.
And that moment he decides to stand up, literally fighting the ship's systems.
So symbolic. Defying gravity, defying the easy path. It's about reclaiming agency.
Yeah, and his fascination with Earth, the old footage. It feels genuine, poignant.
So beyond the obvious environmental themes, you've got technology, consumerism. What else?
Well, there are layers, aren't there? Identity, definitely, memory. And running through it all is love, connection.
But it handles them so subtly. It's not preachy.
No, not at all. It's graceful. And that little plant becomes such a powerful symbol.
Of hope, resilience.
Nature enduring, yeah. It's visually very potent.
And we have to mention the music. Thomas Newman's score.
Oh, it's beautiful. So ethereal, emotive. It just fits the visual poetry perfectly. It really elevates the feeling without being, overwhelming.
And using the Hello Dolly songs, put on your Sunday clothes, it only takes a moment.
Just brilliant. Adds that nostalgic charm, but also underlines the theme of connection. Finding connection across time and space.
What really makes Wall-E stand out for me narratively is how much it trusts you, the viewer.
It doesn't over-explain.
Not at all. It relies on imagery, on inference. You have to engage, put the pieces together yourself. It respects your intelligence.
That restraint in dialogue is, well, it's a masterclass. It shows you don't need constant talking to convey deep emotion or a complex story.
Sometimes silence or just sounds says more.
Think about the climax, when Wall-E is almost destroyed.
Oh, heartbreaking.
And then he gets rebooted, and Eve is trying desperately to bring him back. His memories.
So much emotion with barely any words. It's all in her actions, his blank stare.
And that question hangs there. Is it still Wall-E? What makes him him? It touches on some big ideas about, consciousness.
Until that moment, that spark of recognition, when he finally remembers Eve.
Reaching for her hand. It's just pure catharsis. Beautifully done.
Even the end credits are part of the story.
Right. The changing art styles, like humanity starting over, cave paintings, hieroglyphs, impressionism, then pixels.
Showing rebirth, progression, and the end isn't some huge party, is it? It's quiet, determined, hopeful.
Yeah, a hopeful beginning. It feels earned.
So looking back, Wall-E really feels like a landmark, not just for animation, but for film generally.
It really pushed boundaries, I think. Blending that artistic integrity with huge popular appeal, you can see its influence.
Absolutely. So whether you think it's the single greatest film ever, well, that's always up for debate, isn't it?
Always subjective, yeah. But its place as one of the most, let's say, perfectly crafted cinematic experiences.
I'd say that's pretty hard to argue with. It entertains, makes you think, and it just lasts. It's art.
Agreed. Just works on so many levels.
So wrapping up our deep dive on Wall-E, we've touched on its amazing use of silence, those unforgettable characters, the surprisingly relevant social commentary. It all just comes together, doesn't it?
It creates this really unique, resonant experience.
Which kind of leaves us with a thought for you, the listener.
Yeah, thinking beyond just Wall-E, where else have you seen nonverbal communication in film used really powerfully to convey deep meaning, deep emotion?
And are there other stories out there, maybe ones that seem simple on the surface, that actually hold some profound insights?
All right, let's dive in. Today, we're cracking open a fascinating source. It's an article called 5 Curiosities about Wall-E.
Oh, great film.
Definitely. So if you're a fan, you'll love this. Our mission is basically to unpack some surprising, kind of behind-the-scenes details.
Yeah, the creative choices, the recognition it got.
Exactly. We want to get you quickly informed on why this movie is just, well, so special.
It really is. I mean, the artistry runs deep, and this source, it sort of pulls back the curtain on some key decisions.
Deliberate decisions, right?
Very deliberate. It's more than just a sweet story. It's like a masterclass in using visuals and sound.
Okay, let's get into it then. First thing that always strikes me about Wall-E, the sound.
Oh, absolutely.
Those beeps, whirs, clicks, they're practically characters.
And what's truly fascinating, and the source points this out, is the sound designer, Ben Burtt.
The Ben Burtt.
The Ben Burtt. If that name rings a bell.
Okay.
Well, Star Wars. R2-D2.
R2-D2. Lightsabers. Wow.
That's him. The genius behind those iconic sounds. The source highlights this amazing connection.
That link alone is incredible. And the scale of his work on Wall-E. The article says he created over 2,500 unique sounds just for this one film.
Get this, 2,500. And at the time, that was the most sounds for any Pixar movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
It just underscores how crucial sound was, especially when you consider, well, how the film starts.
right. Which brings us to another point the source makes.
Mm,
Arguably one of the, boldest creative moves.
that initial stretch.
Yes.
Yeah.
How long does it go without any, unusual dialogue?
A remarkable 22 minutes.
22.
Yeah, think about that. For mainstream animation, it's practically unheard of.
That really is.
The filmmakers just committed entirely to visual storytelling and, critically, relied on those thousands of Ben Burt sounds.
To carry everything, emotion, story, personality.
Exactly. For Wall-E, for Eve, it was a huge gamble, honestly.
But it worked.
Oh, it paid off massively. Earned so much praise for that pure cinematic language.
It forces you, the viewer, to really lean in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To understand through action and sound, not words. Okay, moving from sound and that opening structure.
Yeah.
The film also did something visually groundbreaking for Pixar.
Yes, the source notes this Wall-E was the first Pixar film to use live-action footage.
Live action. Where did they put that in?
It pops up in those historical clips showing humanity's past, and most notably featuring actor Fred Willard.
Oh, right. As the by-and-large CEO, Shelby Forthright.
That's the one. Using live actors gave this stark, almost unsettling contrast to the animation.
Yeah, it grounds that critique of consumerism in something, well, real, recognizable.
Exactly. It makes those moments really stand out.
Okay, shifting gears visually again. The source also points out a very specific real-world design influence.
Yeah, if you look at Eve's design.
Sleek.
Yeah.
Minimalist.
Totally. There's a clear nod to Apple Inc. It makes perfect sense, right, for this advanced piece of tech.
It absolutely fits.
And here's a fun detail, kind of a deep cut the article mentions. The film actually used the Mac startup chime.
No way. When?
When Wall-E reboots or, reactivates.
Huh? I honestly never consciously caught that. Now I have to listen for it.
It's there. It fits perfectly, like you said.
Okay, so finally, the source wraps up by touching on the film's impact. Its recognition.
Which was undeniable. Wall-E wasn't just a technical or creative hit, it was a critical darling. An awards magnet.
Didn't it win the Oscar?
Yep. Best Animated Feature in 2009. And it was nominated for 5 others, including original screenplay.
Screenplay too. Wow, that says a lot about the story itself, even with so little dialogue early on.
It really does. And it also landed on Time Magazine's prestigious list, 25 Best Animated Films of All Time.
That's serious recognition.
Mm-hmm.
So let's quickly recap the nuggets from this source. We've got Ben Burt's massive Star Wars-linked sound design.
Over 2,500 sounds.
The super bold, silent opening, 22 minutes.
Defining its storytelling.
The pioneering use of live action with Fred Willard adding that dose of reality.
That jarring contrast.
The slick Apple influence on Eve, right down to the Mac chime.
That little audio Easter egg.
And finally, its cemented place in film history. Oscar win. Time list.
Yeah.
Huge critical acclaim.
Absolutely. It covered a lot of ground.
So here's something to maybe chew on after this.
Right.
Thinking about these specific, maybe unconventional choices, we talked about the sound, the silence, the live action, the design cues. How does knowing about that intentionality, knowing these details from the source, how does that change or maybe deepen your appreciation of Wall-E?
Yeah. How do these deliberate, sometimes unexpected details shape a film that's so celebrated? Something to think about.